Italy is the ultimate dream vacation. The food, the history, the views. But every year, too many tourists make some key mistakes that turn that dream into an expensive financial nightmare. From hidden banking tricks that secretly steal 10% of your money, to a viral free house illusion that can waste your whole vacation, I'm going to give you 9 of the biggest financial mistakes tourists make in Italy and how to avoid every single one. I'm Gary with Optimal Travel. Let's get started. I thought it was rather interesting the first time I went to Italy. When I went to buy something with my credit card, the cashier turned the terminal around to me and asked me to select a choice on the screen, which wanted me to pick whether or not to make the purchase in euros, which is the local currency, or in US dollars, because it recognized that my credit card was a US credit card. I just selected dollars and I didn't think much about it at the time. But because it was an odd question to me, I did a little research and found out the local banks that operate these machines at restaurants, hotels, shops, and ATM machines use a very high exchange rate when they ask you to convert those euros to your home currency. Basically, they're asking you if they can charge you more money for this transaction. Because if you select just to pay in euros, then your home bank or your credit card company back home will do that conversion for you. In 99% of the cases, your home bank will charge you a lower exchange rate, which could save you hundreds of dollars throughout your entire trip in Italy. Most of us North Americans, unless we live in a major metropolitan area, don't use a whole lot of public transportation. But in Italy, you probably will, because it's very convenient. It's easy to get around the big cities, the major tourist attractions. There's usually going to be a lot of bus systems or even metro systems where you're going to be. And a lot of these systems use paper tickets still. So you can go up to the machine, you get a paper ticket, and then you have to validate that ticket when you get on the bus or the train, because if you don't validate it, it's as if you got on that train or bus without paying. And this catches a lot of tourists off guard because local authorities will board these buses and trains. I've seen it myself, and check your ticket. I've seen them giving out a fine to somebody in excess of 50 euros just for not having a ticket that was properly validated. One way that I avoid this situation completely is I download the travel apps for the cities I'm going in. I'm going to link in the description the 2 apps you'll need that'll probably get you by in most Italian cities, and that is the MoneyGo app and the Move It app. These apps will not only give you local bus and train schedules and help you route out where you're going, but you actually can buy your bus and train tickets on these apps. And then when you get on the bus, you validate it right on your phone. You just press a button. So if anybody gets on board to check your ticket, you can show it right there that you have a valid ticket that's been validated. You don't have to worry about paper tickets or dealing with foreign machines or reading signs in Italian. You can do it all right on your phone and avoid any issue and possibility of getting fined. And then some of the metro systems are now using Tap and Go, which you don't even need an app. So if you're going to take, for example, the metro in Rome, you can just tap your credit card or Apple Pay or Google Pay right at the entry turnstiles, and that'll let you write in, so you don't have to deal with getting a ticket from a machine, which is one of the areas where some people have been pickpocketed or subject to other petty crimes. So avoiding those kind of tourist bottlenecks where some of these petty criminals hang out, do everything with your phone. It makes the travel a lot easier. When you travel, are you comfortable with the modern technology and the latest apps, or are you more comfortable with the old style paper tickets? Let me know in the comments below. If you've done any scrolling on social media about travel or housing, you've undoubtedly come across these €1 houses being advertised in Italy. And some tourists take part of their vacation time to go and check these things out. But they're not exactly what they seem, and it's probably something you'll want to avoid doing. Most of these so-called €1 houses are in remote villages where they're trying to increase the population. So they're not anywhere near the tourist areas, and they're difficult to get to. And then once you get there to look at these properties, you'll find out in most cases they end up being auctioned off. So that €1 price is really the starting price for the auction, and most of them go in the range of 5 to 10 to 20,000 euros. And that's only the beginning, because these houses need a lot of work. And when the government has taken over these houses and they're auctioning them off or selling them off cheap, they're putting in stipulations. And if you buy one of these houses, you have to put typically over 100,000 euros or more work into the house, repairing things, bringing it up to code. And you get certain deadlines for doing this if you buy one of these houses. So it's a lot of work, a lot of time investment, and it's not for most people. Certainly don't waste time on your vacation seeing if this is a dream you could make a reality. If you really want to move to Italy and you want to find an affordable way to do it, do all that research back home, because these €1 houses are not exactly what they seem.
And the problem with these €1 houses is that apart from having to invest a lot of money in them, you also have to go through lots of red tape to be able to live there, because those houses do not grant you automatic residency in Italy.
On my very first trip to Rome, I wasted a good bit of money on tourist trap restaurants. And the second time I went to Rome, I made a point to look at Google reviews before eating at a restaurant. Because in Rome and all the major tourist cities, there are tons of restaurants to choose from. So how do you know where to go? Well, first of all, a lot of these spots that are near the major attractions have people outside calling at tourists walking by, telling them to come in, trying to hand them menus or cards. These are not legitimate Italian restaurants. They're tourist spots. If they were getting enough business from the locals, they wouldn't need to be doing this to bring people inside. And then there are these like half Indian, half Italian restaurants that you'll find near tourist hotspots. They're trying to appeal to different types of tastes and people, but does a restaurant really do all these different things well? I have eaten at some of these and it was mediocre at best. The prices aren't horrible, but when you're in Italy, you want authentic Italian food. So if you see a restaurant that looks like it might be an Indian restaurant, might be an Italian restaurant, skip it. If you're walking by and somebody's trying aggressively to get you inside or to get you to look at their menu, walk right by. Walk a couple of streets off the main drag, and you'll find some local Italian spots that are really good for more affordable prices. Have you ever gotten into a restaurant when you were traveling and thought, this isn't really what I wanted? Let me know in the comments below. One of the biggest ways I have found to save when traveling in Italy is on hotel bookings. I now always call the hotel directly to make my booking. That doesn't mean I won't use some of these big sites like booking.com or whatever else you have out there, because that's a way to see what your options are and they have everything in their inventory. But the problem is when you book that way, you are giving a commission to this booking site. And those commissions are huge. I was actually at a hotel once where the owner was pretty friendly and he showed me what he got paid for the hotel that I booked. And it was less than half of what I actually paid for that hotel. So from now on, when I find a good hotel, I will call it up directly and I will ask the owner, what can you give me for these dates? What's your best deal? And every single time, it's a price below what's advertised online. Some of these hotels even have their own websites, so you can go directly there, email them, use WhatsApp. There's a lot of ways to contact them, but you almost certainly will get a better deal because most hotels throughout Italy are independently owned and operated. They're either owned by individuals or very small companies. And so they don't have huge marketing budgets like Hilton or Holiday Inn. The way they get people is by putting their name on these booking sites, yet they have to pay a huge commission if you book through that site. So they'd rather give you a little discount and save on that commission if you book directly with them.
If you have stayed in a hotel in Italy, please let us know in the comments if you have a favorite one.
Many of Italy's major tourist cities, like Rome, have cold water drinking fountains throughout, which means you don't have to keep buying bottles of water to stay hydrated. Yes, it gets hot in Italy, especially in the summer, and you're going to need a lot of water. But if you're buying a bottle of water from a kiosk every time you're getting thirsty, you're going to rack up $10, $12 over the course of a day. You can save that money by just refilling your bottle at one of these drinking fountains. They're perfectly safe, it's clean, pure water, and usually comes out cold. Next, I'm going to get to one mistake that causes tourists every day to lose the money they spent on their entry tickets. But first, if you would take a minute and subscribe to our channel, hit that like button. It helps us grow and you won't miss our next video. I have on more than one occasion seen tourists turned away from sites like the Vatican that they had actually purchased tickets for, but were denied entry because they didn't follow the proper dress code. Now, sites like the Vatican, churches, and certain historical museum sites throughout Italy have a specific dress code where you cannot have shoulders or knees uncovered. So I know it gets hot in Italy at certain times of the year, and a lot of people want to wear tank tops or shorts or skirts, and that's fine for the most part. But if you're going to one of these sites that has a dress code, make sure you bring something to cover up with. Otherwise, you might have purchased your tickets 6 months ago. They don't care. They're not going to let you in like that. And if you didn't bring something to change into or cover up with, you'll just be turned away. And it's not like you can go back to your hotel and come back later, because many of these tickets, especially for places like the Vatican, are timed, and you have a window of entry. If you miss that window, you won't be let in later.
And sometimes I have also turned away the Vatican, and this is because you want to go in and look at all these museums and the chapel, but there's no air conditioning in there. So when it's super hot, I just turn it away.
For most of us, a majority of our travels are within the United States, and we don't think too much about travel insurance, except for maybe trip cancellation coverage if something goes wrong and we can't make it, or there's a death in the family and we want to get reimbursed. But travel insurance has a whole other significance when you're traveling to Italy or really anywhere else in the EU, because our insurance from the US doesn't work there. They're on a totally different public health care system, and they don't just take foreigners in and cover them for free. In fact, the costs can be exorbitant, and in some countries, they won't let you even leave the hospital until that bill is paid. So if you have travel insurance, it's going to cover that. If you have something happen to you while you're traveling, maybe it's an accident, maybe it's a issue related to a medical condition, as long as you bought that travel insurance policy at the right time and it covers your pre-existing conditions, you'll be fully taken care of. I put a link in the description to 2 companies that I have used that also cover pre-existing conditions and trip interruption. Those are 2 things that are important because a lot of us have something that we're dealing with and we wouldn't want it to be excluded if we have an issue related to that overseas. And then things happen. Sometimes you could miss a flight. You could be delayed by some unknown event, and you want to have that coverage so the insurance will reimburse you for any extra expenses that you incur getting back home or getting to where you're going. One of the things I realized the first time I went on a train in Italy is they don't design the luggage racks for typical American-sized suitcases. In fact, I had a typical, I think it was a 28-inch suitcase. It was fully packed and hard cased, so you couldn't really squish it that much, and it didn't fit anywhere. I had to ride the train with it sitting on the floor next to me because the racks are designed for smaller suitcases. So if you can plan it properly when you're traveling Italy, try not to bring one of these oversized suitcases. It will not only save you headaches when getting on the trains or buses, but just pulling these around the streets, which you'll be doing a fair amount of if you're taking public transportation, can be really difficult, especially on some of these cobblestone streets. So the lighter, smaller suitcases are really the way to go. Try to pack light. Do laundry once or twice during your trip. There are a lot of laundry places throughout Italy that you can use, and they're mostly self-service, and it's not difficult.
Another problem with the luggage is if you're traveling by train, you end up sitting somewhere and your luggage might be somewhere else in a rack all the way at the other side of the train. So in order to avoid this, if your suitcase is smaller, you can just put it where you are, and that's safer.
But the size of the suitcase isn't the only thing that a lot of tourists get wrong. I'll tell you some other key packing mistakes you can avoid right here.